Okay, picture a scenario that I'm guessing is intimately familiar to you. It's the end of the day, you walk through your front door, drop your bag, and you are just completely, utterly depleted. Yet, your brain is absolutely racing. You're exhausted, but you literally cannot relax. Now, we usually just brush this off, right? We say, oh, I'm just stressed out. But what if I told you that this universal feeling isn't some sort of psychological weakness? It's actually a biological glitch. Today, in this explainer, we are going to uncover a hidden operating system that is running beneath your daily experience. And that brings us to the central mystery we're unraveling here. What invisible biological forces are shaping your life every single day? See, that feeling of being wired and unable to switch off? Clinically, that is known as a state of autonomic nervous system hyperarousal. And the crazy thing is, it's actually an ancient evolutionary survival mechanism trying to keep you alive. Your primitive brain is desperately attempting to protect you from a threat that, well, doesn't actually exist in your living room. Your biology, your behavior, your emotions, they are all deeply interconnected. So when you feel totally wired at 7 p.m., it's because your body is stuck in a survival loop that you haven't consciously terminated. What we are essentially trying to do every single evening is cross a massive biological chasm. On one side, you have the sympathetic state. That's your fight or flight mode. And honestly, it's highly effective for navigating the modern workday, managing crazy deadlines, and hunting down solutions. But on the other side is the parasympathetic state. This is your rest and digest mode. It's where cellular repair, deep sleep, and emotional regulation actually happen. But here's the paradox. Evolutionarily speaking, your body and your brain do not automatically know that the workday has ended just because you drove home. You have to actively build a bridge across that chasm. To cross that bridge, we have to implement the first crucial biological intervention, which is establishing a hard cognitive boundary. You see, evolutionary biology doesn't understand what a laptop or a commute is. It only understands psychological threats. So if your mind is still at the office, your nervous system is absolutely there too. We have to systematically eradicate the cognitive load of the day to physically halt that biological stress response. Now, the reason we can't just simply let it go comes down to a really fascinating biological mechanism called the Zeigarnik effect. When you leave work with unfinished tasks, a bunch of unread emails, or just vague ideas of what you need to do tomorrow, you're creating open loops in your mind. These open loops literally trap your working memory in a continuous cycle of low-grade anxiety. Your brain thinks you are still out hunting for survival, and that completely blocks your autonomic nervous system from ever entering recovery mode. So how do we actually close these loops? Well, we look to a highly effective, evidence-based protocol pioneered by Cal Newport, known as the work shutdown ritual. Think of this as a neurological safety protocol that takes maybe 5 to 15 minutes tops. First, you review your accomplishments. That validates your efforts and gives you a nice little hit of dopamine. Second, capture every single open loop in writing so your brain knows it won't be forgotten. Third, reconcile your calendar for tomorrow to manage that anticipatory anxiety. Fourth, select 3 most important tasks for the morning, which completely eliminates decision fatigue. And finally, and this is key, use a verbal and physical cue. Literally close the laptop and say out loud, "Shutdown complete." That physical and auditory signal grants your brain the psychological permission to fully disengage. Okay, so you've closed the cognitive loops. The mind knows work is over. But here is the biological paradox. Your physiology is still flooded with the sheer momentum of the day. Your bloodstream is frankly toxic with stress hormones right now. So how do you physically transition a hyper-aroused nervous system before you walk through the front door and interact with your family? Enter what performance researcher Dr. Adam Fraser calls the third space. I want you to think of this as a biological airlock. In a physical airlock, pressure is carefully equalized so you aren't destroyed when opening the door, right? Your commute is your biological pressure equalization. It is a deliberate 15 to 30-minute pause between the professional you and the personal you. Elite performers use this space to consciously shed the emotional residue of the previous environment and intentionally reset their minds before moving forward. But what exactly should you be doing inside this airlock? Well, we look to a fast-acting tool championed by neurobiologist Dr. Andrew Huberman called the physiological sigh. Now, to be clear, this isn't just some new age breath work. It is a mechanical intervention. It's literally a hardwired lever you can pull to hack your autonomic nervous system right during your commute. The mechanics of this are surprisingly simple but profound. You take a deep inhale through your nose, and then, right at the very top of that breath, you take a shorter second inhale. Finally, you release a long, slow exhale through the mouth. Here's why this works. When you're stressed, your breathing becomes shallow, which causes the tiny air sacs in your lungs, the alveoli, to collapse. That double inhale physically pops those alveoli back open, which instantly offloads carbon dioxide. Doing this just 3 to 5 times rapidly lowers your heart rate and engages your body's natural calming mechanisms in real time. All right, so you've set a cognitive boundary and you've mechanically slowed your heart rate, but the profound accumulated physical tension is still there. What happens to the cortisol and adrenaline that are still surging through your veins? Because breathing alone isn't going to instantly clear out a massive chemical surplus. This brings us to the immediate post-commute phase. You've just walked through the door. Before you can truly rest, your body actually requires an evolutionary mechanism to burn off that chemical stress. We call this somatic tension discharge. You literally have to engage the body to pull a vagal brake, clamping down on that spinning wheel of sympathetic anxiety. Clinical evidence points to 3 primary bottom-up physical methods to clear out these circulating hormones. The first is moderate aerobic exercise. This increases cerebral blood flow, clears out mental fog, and actually stimulates neurogenesis, meaning you are literally growing new neurons in your brain's hippocampus. The second is progressive muscle relaxation, which is a systematic tensing and releasing of your muscles. And the third is something truly remarkable called neurogenic therapeutic tremoring. Perhaps the most fascinating method of all is shaking medicine, developed by Dr. Keith Moats. Have you ever watched a nature documentary and seen a gazelle physically shake after escaping a lion? That is neurogenic tremoring. It is an instinctive, built-in healing intelligence that we humans tend to suppress because it looks a bit strange. But by engaging in specific body-led exercises, you can trigger these core-originated vibrations that physically flush out suppressed tension, stress, and even trauma. It is a profound way to downregulate from fight or flight and restore deep somatic presence in your body. Okay, so you've cleared your mind, you've equalized your roles in the airlock, and you've discharged the physical stress. You finally feel relaxed. But wait, what if your own home is secretly sabotaging your recovery without you even knowing it? This introduces a huge hidden biological conflict of modern living. You see, your sensory nervous system remains incredibly sensitive to inputs. Your body's threat radar is constantly scanning the room, subconsciously asking, am I safe? If you do all this amazing internal work, but then step into a living room that mimics a high-stress workplace, your biology is going to snap right back to hyperarousal. So we must engage in environmental sensory tuning to create a predictable space that actually supports nervous system regulation. Harsh fluorescent overhead lights, loud chaotic noises, constant digital alerts buzzing, these are biological illusions. They trick your ancient brain into thinking it's midday and danger is right around the corner. They are direct sympathetic triggers. Conversely, transitioning your home to warm, dimmed LED lighting, playing some soft instrumental music, maybe diffusing some lavender, these act as direct, physiological parasympathetic cues. They systematically guide your biology toward complete recovery entirely through your senses. Now, to protect this low-sensory environment, we have to establish what we call digital friction. And a really powerful organizational strategy for this is the phone foyer method. It's exactly what it sounds like. When you walk in, you plug your smartphone into a charger in the entryway, and you leave it there. This is not just some cute time management trick. It is the construction of a biological sanctuary. Your phone is a literal portal to the sympathetic nervous system. By leaving it at the door, you protect your parasympathetic space for deep physiological and mental recovery. When we map all of this out chronologically, it builds into one cohesive, beautifully integrated operating system. Let's trace it. 15 minutes before logging off, you execute the shutdown ritual to clear your cognitive load. For the next 15 to 30 minutes, you enter the third space, using that physiological sigh to equalize pressure. Upon arriving home, you take 15 to 20 minutes for somatic discharge, like exercise or tremoring, to burn off those toxic stress hormones. And finally, your entire evening is spent in a sensory-tuned biological sanctuary. This isn't just a random list of productivity hacks. It is a deliberate, step-by-step biological transition sequence. Because ultimately, when we zoom out and look at the actual science of human flourishing, we realize a pretty profound truth. Health is not just a collection of separate habits that you check off a to-do list. Health is the emergent result of countless interconnected biological processes occurring every moment of every day. Think about the cascade here. How you close your laptop influences your nervous system. Your nervous system dictates the quality of your deep sleep. Your deep sleep regulates your hormones and systemic inflammation. And that inflammation dictates your cognitive longevity and your cellular aging over the coming decades. Mastering these daily off switches doesn't just make your Tuesday evening a little more pleasant, it cumulatively alters the entire trajectory of your lifespan. We have just uncovered the hidden operating system of your daily recovery. And I'll leave you with this thought. If mastering your evening transition literally has the power to alter your biological age, your cognitive health, and your emotional resilience, what hidden forces are you going to take control of tonight?